we begin tonight with the unescapable head-on collision of politics and sports.
$12 billion is a lot of money to throw in the trash on purpose, but that is exactly what the NFL is doing right now. This is a key detail that owners are trying to hide as fans abandon the stands forever. Football is more than just a game in America, but lately, it feels like a battleground for a political war.
Perhaps the most high-profile business that has been really hammered is the National Football League.
The latest halftime show was the final straw for millions of patriotic families who just wanted to enjoy their Sunday. Instead of hits and catches, they got a message that felt like an insult to their values and their country. Financial empire crumbling. Football is more than just a game in America. It is a tradition that brings families together every Sunday. But lately, that tradition is feeling a lot like a battleground. The league recently watched $12 billion slide off their balance sheet, and the reason is not a mystery anymore. Fans started walking out the moment they realized the league was moving away from the values that built the sport. It started with small changes, but it ended with a halftime show that millions of people simply could not understand. This was not just about music. It was about a total shift in how the league treats its core audience. For years, people tuned in to see hard hits and amazing catches. Now they feel like they are being lectured by a corporation that does not even speak their language. The financial loss is staggering when you look at the concrete data. $12 billion is not just a dip in sales. It is a sign of a massive cultural divorce. Advertisers are starting to sweat because the eyes they pay for are looking elsewhere. See, the audience for pro football is mostly made up of patriotic men who just want to enjoy their weekend. When the league decided to lean into far-left activism, they essentially told half the country they were not welcome. It is a bold strategy to insult your best customers. But that is exactly what happened. The stadiums are seeing rows of empty seats that used to be filled with lifelong season ticket holders. These are people who used to spend thousands of dollars on tickets, parking, and hot dogs. Now that money is staying in their wallets or going toward other hobbies. The numbers are clear as day. Merchandise sales have dropped by double digits in several key markets. Television ratings are showing a weird trend where people watch the game but turn the TV off the second the clock hits zero in the second quarter. This is a nightmare for the people who sell those expensive halftime commercials. If nobody is watching the stage, the ads are worthless. And get this, the league knew this was coming. They had the data, they knew the risks, but they went ahead with it anyway. Some experts think they were trying to find a new, younger audience, but in the process, they lost the people who actually pay the bills. It is like a car company deciding to stop selling gas cars while everyone still wants to drive them. You might be looking toward the future, but you are going broke in the present. The social media backlash has been just as expensive. Every time the league posts something now, the comments are filled with fans saying they are done for good. It is a total PR disaster that has been brewing for a long time. The $12 billion loss is just the beginning if they cannot find a way to bring those fans back into the fold. But it is not just about the money. It is about the trust that was broken. Once a fan feels like the sport they love hates them back, they do not just come back because of a fancy new app or a cool uniform. They stay away because their heart is not in it anymore. A massive shift in viewer habits is now forcing the league to rethink every single move they make. Nobody expected the fallout to reach the local businesses so quickly. In cities where the game is king, sports bars are seeing half-empty rooms on Sunday afternoons. For starters, the owners of these small businesses are the ones paying the real price. They rely on the foot traffic and the excitement of the game to pay their rent. Now they are looking at their books and seeing a massive drop in revenue. It is not that simple, though, because the league does not seem to care about the small guy. They are too busy flying in private jets and talking about global expansion to notice that their own backyard is on fire. What most people do not realize is that the $12 billion loss affects everything from player salaries to the price of a beer at the stadium. If the revenue keeps dropping, the league will have to make some very tough choices. They might have to cut back on the flashy lights and the expensive stadium upgrades. But even then, it might not be enough to save the brand. The fans have sent a clear message. They are not just customers. They are the heart of the game. If you break their heart, you lose their wallet. The crazy part is that some people think this was all planned. There are rumors on the air that the league is trying to move away from the traditional fan base on purpose. They want to be a global lifestyle brand rather than an American sports league. But here is the catch. You cannot have a global brand if you do not have a strong home base. You are essentially building a house on sand, and that is putting it lightly. The foundation of the NFL is the American family, and right now, that foundation is cracking in ways that may never be fixed. The real trouble started when the lights went down and the music began. Identity politics storm. The Super Bowl halftime show is usually the biggest concert of the year, but this time it was the biggest reason for people to grab their coats and leave. The NFL picked a rapper named Bad Bunny to lead the show. Now he is a global star with billions of streams, but there was one big problem. He sings almost entirely in Spanish. In a country where English is the primary language and the Super Bowl is the ultimate American event, this felt like a strange choice to many. Fans were left wondering why they were being made to feel like strangers in their own living rooms. It was not just the language, though. It was the message behind the artist. Bad Bunny is known for wearing dresses and being very gender fluid in his style. For a sport that is built on traditional masculinity, this was a massive shock to the system. The league wanted to be seen as diverse and forward-thinking, but the fans saw it as a deliberate attempt to push a specific agenda. Yeah, about that. The artist is also very vocal about his political views. He has openly criticized the very laws that keep the country's borders secure. He has even made it clear that he is not a fan of the leadership that millions of football fans voted for. So when he stepped onto that stage, he was not just a singer, he was a political symbol. People were not just annoyed, they were confused. They asked why a rapper who refuses to tour in certain parts of the United States because of his views on immigration was being given the biggest platform in the country. It felt like the NFL was choosing sides in a political war. And when you choose a side, you lose the people on the other side. This is why the walkout happened. It was not about being mean or not liking different types of music. It was about not wanting to be lectured during a football game. The fans wanted to hear hits they could sing along to. Instead, they got a performance that felt like it was designed to make them feel uncomfortable. The league's internal numbers showed a massive spike in people switching channels the moment the halftime show began. This is the worst thing that can happen to a broadcaster. When 20 million people suddenly stop watching, the value of the entire program drops. It is a key detail that the league tried to hide, but the data does not lie. Fans were even seen leaving the actual stadium during the show to go buy more beer or just wait in their cars. It was a total rejection of the product the NFL was trying to sell. Basically, the league thought they could force-feed a new culture to their fans, but the fans said no thank you. For starters, the average football fan spends about $500 a year on the league. When you multiply that by millions of people, you see why the league is sweating. They thought they could replace the old guard with a younger, more progressive crowd, but that crowd does not buy tickets. They watch 10-second clips on social media and then move on to the next thing. The people who actually sit in the stands and buy the jerseys are the ones the league just insulted. Hands down, this was the most tone-deaf move in the history of the sport. Everyone is obsessed with why the league would take such a risk. Some say it is because the sponsors are demanding more diversity, but others think the league is just out of touch with reality. They live in a bubble where everyone agrees with them, but the moment they step outside that bubble, they realize the rest of the country is not on the same page. The $12 billion loss is just a number until you realize it represents millions of people saying, enough is enough. So here's the deal. The halftime show was not just a concert, it was a litmus test. And the NFL failed it miserably. They thought they were being inclusive, but they ended up being exclusive. They excluded the very people who made the league what it is today. And get this, they did it on the biggest night of the year. It is like a host inviting you to dinner and then spending the whole time telling you why your lifestyle is wrong. You are not going to come back for a second meal. The crazy part is that while the NFL was failing, someone else was succeeding. Underground concert success. While the NFL was losing its grip on the audience, a group called Turning Point USA was ready to step in. They decided to host their own show at the exact same time as the official one. They called it the All-American Halftime Show. It was a bold move, but it paid off in a huge way. They brought out stars like Kid Rock and other country singers who were known for loving the country and its traditions. They did not push a complicated political agenda. They just played music that people wanted to hear. And the response was absolutely mind-blowing. The numbers were huge for a streaming event. Over 20 million people tuned in to watch the alternative show across different social media platforms. At one point, they had over 10 million people watching at the exact same time. That is a massive number for a show that did not have a multi-million-dollar advertising budget. It proved that there is a huge hunger for content that does not feel like a lecture. People were literally going from the big game on their TV to the alternative show on their phones and tablets. They were looking for a place where they felt like they belonged. The success of the Turning Point show sent a shockwave through the entertainment world. It showed that the old gatekeepers do not have all the power anymore. If the fans do not like what the big networks are showing, they can find something else in a matter of seconds. This is a total game changer for how sports and music will be handled in the future. See, the alternative show was free to watch and supported by regular ads. It did not cost the viewers anything, but it gave them exactly what they were missing from the official NFL production. The artists on the alternative stage were loud and proud about their faith and their country. Kid Rock even said he felt like he had to write a new verse for one of his songs just to honor the moment. This kind of raw, honest connection is what fans are starving for. They do not want polished corporate messages that feel like they were written by a committee. They want something real. The fact that an independent group could pull in 20 million viewers during the biggest game of the year is a sign that the tide is turning. The league is now staring at a future where they have to compete for their own fans' attention. What most people do not realize is that this alternative show was put together in a fraction of the time and for a fraction of the cost. It proves that you do not need billions of dollars to reach people, you just need to understand them. For starters, the music was simple, loud, and American. There were no confusing messages or political symbols. It was just a celebration of the sport and the country. And get this, the fans loved it so much that they started sharing it with everyone they knew. The link for the alternative show went viral in minutes, pulling people away from the official broadcast. The crazy part is that the NFL tried to downplay the success of the alternative show. They claimed their numbers were still higher, but they were comparing apples to oranges. The NFL has the benefit of being on every major network, while the alternative show was only on social media. If you look at the percentage of growth, the alternative show won hands down. It shows that the silent majority is not so silent anymore. They are finding new ways to spend their time and their money, and they are not looking back. But here is the catch. This alternative success is now making the sponsors nervous. If 20 million people are leaving the main broadcast, that means 20 million people are not seeing the expensive commercials for beer, trucks, and insurance. The advertisers are starting to ask why they are paying millions of dollars for a halftime slot if nobody is watching. It is a key detail that could lead to a massive drop in ad revenue for the league next year. The league is now scrambling to find a way to keep people engaged. Hidden hand decisions. There are still many rumors in the air about why the league is making these choices, and the truth might be even weirder than you think. Some people believe it is not about the money at all, but rather a hidden hand behind the scenes pushing a specific agenda to change the culture of the country forever. This is where the wild theories start to take over, and they are enough to make any lifelong fan do a double take. What if that $12 billion loss was not a mistake? What if it was actually expected or even planned? Some analysts suggest that the league is way more worried about their scores with big banks than their actual profit from ticket sales. See, there is this thing called environmental, social, and governance, or ESG. It is basically a report card for corporations. If the NFL wants to keep getting those massive loans and investments from groups like BlackRock, they have to prove they are pushing certain values, even if those values make their own fans walk out. So, the theory goes that the league is willing to toss $12 billion in the trash just to stay in the good graces of the world's most powerful bankers. It is a game of high-stakes poker where the fans are just the chips on the table. Nobody expected the league to value a corporate score over their own audience, but that is exactly what many people are starting to believe is the new reality. Another wild theory floating around is that the league is trying to deliberately crash the American fan base to make room for a global one. They know that the American market is saturated, which is just a fancy way of saying everyone who is going to watch football in the United States is already watching it. But in places like Europe, Mexico, and China, there are billions of potential new fans who do not have the same traditions or expectations. By making the show more global and less American, they are trying to appeal to people who do not care about the old values that built the sport. It is a cold and calculated move to trade 100 million loyal fans for 1 billion new ones across the ocean. They are essentially burning the old house down because they think the new one will be bigger, even if it has no soul. And get this, some people think the league wants to move the Super Bowl to London or Tokyo eventually, and they need to break the American spirit first, so nobody fights back when they take our favorite game away. But wait, it gets even weirder as you dig deeper into the rabbit hole. Some insiders whisper that the league is using these controversial halftime shows to distract everyone from the real issues happening inside the sport. There are massive lawsuits regarding player health and the long-term effects of the game that could cost the league way more than $12 billion in the long run. By keeping everyone arguing about a rapper in a dress or the language being sung on stage, they are keeping the lawyers, the media, and the fans busy with a culture war instead of a legal one. It is a classic misdirection play, like a quarterback looking left before throwing right. While we are all mad about the music, the league is quietly settling cases and changing rules behind closed doors. They want us fighting each other so we do not look at them and ask the hard questions about where the game is actually headed. And then there is the theory that the league is being paid by outside groups or even foreign governments to push certain political messages. They point to the fact that the halftime show felt more like a political rally than a concert. Why would a sports league want to get involved in border politics or gender discussions? It does not make any sense for a business that wants to make money, unless someone else is pulling the strings and covering the losses. Some fans wonder if the NFL has become a tool for social engineering, where the goal is to make people feel uncomfortable with their own culture until they just give up and accept whatever the new normal is supposed to be. The thing is, we have to wonder if all this happens overnight, or if it has been planned for years in secret meetings we were never invited to. Basically, the crazy part is that the league actually has all the data. They know exactly what their fans want. They have millions of rows of data showing that a classic rock act or a big country star would keep every single person in their seats and every TV turned on. So, choosing an artist who openly criticizes the country's laws was not an accident. It was a deliberate choice to go against the grain and slap the fans in the face. It makes you wonder if there is a loyalty test going on, where the league wants to see just how much garbage the fans will take before they finally snap. What most people do not realize is that this might be the end of the NFL as we know it. We are watching the total collapse of a sports empire in real time, and the people in charge are the ones holding the matches. Let's talk down to earth for a second. Do you really think the league cares about you or your family? When you are sitting on your couch on a Sunday, do you feel like you are part of a community? Or do you feel like you are being sold a product that actually hates you? The fans who walked out mid-game were not just leaving a stadium. They were leaving a long-term relationship. They were saying they deserve respect, and they are tired of being lectured by multimillionaires who do not know the price of a gallon of milk. If the league does not change its playbook soon, they will find themselves playing in front of empty blue seats, while the rest of the country is watching alternative shows that actually treat them like adults. The clock is ticking loud and clear, and that $12 billion hole is only getting deeper every single day. There are even crazier rumors that the league is trying to move toward a virtual league where the players are replaced by digital versions or AI in the future. They want to get rid of the human element because humans are expensive and they get hurt. By alienating the current fans, they are clearing the way for a version of the game that looks more like a video game than a sport. If you think that sounds like science fiction, just look at how much they are pushing digital betting and virtual reality headsets lately. They want to own your eyes and your wallet without having to worry about what you actually think. But here is the catch. You cannot have a game without people who care. You can have the best graphics in the world, but if nobody is cheering, it is just a bunch of blinking lights on a screen. Some people are even saying the league is in on the alternative shows. They think the NFL might be secretly funding the competition so they can eventually buy them out and control both sides of the argument. It is a controlled opposition theory where no matter which channel you turn to, the same people are getting your money. While that sounds like a movie plot, it happens in the business world more than you would think. It is a way to make sure that even the people who walk out are still within the system. But if the walkout was real and the fans are truly gone, then the league is in more trouble than they can ever admit. They are staring at a future where they are no longer the king of the mountain, but just another struggling media company trying to find an audience that does not exist anymore. The thing is, the trust is not just cracked, it is totally gone. Once you realize the person you love is lying to you, you do not just go back because they bought a new outfit. You stay away because the heart is not in it anymore. The NFL has broken that bond with millions of Americans, and no amount of fancy marketing or global stars will fix it. They have traded their soul for a corporate score, and now they are learning that you cannot eat an ESG report. You need fans. You need people who are willing to spend their hard-earned money on a ticket and a hot dog. You need the common man who just wants to see a fair game and a good catch. Hands down, this was the most expensive error in the history of televised sports, and we are just starting to see the damage. Does the league have the guts to put the fans first again, or are they going to double down on the drama until there is nothing left? Nobody knows for sure, but the results of the latest walkout are in. People want music and sports that lift them up, not a show that makes them feel like a stranger in their own country. The ball is in the court of the league, but they seem to be running toward the wrong end zone. The crazy part is that they might not even realize it until the lights go out for the last time. Can the NFL ever win back the trust of the American family after this $12 billion disaster? Or is the era of football dominance finally over for good? This cultural divorce seems deeper than ever before. What do you think about the halftime walkout? Like and subscribe for more updates on this massive sports collapse.